Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Nice to have you. I'm Bill Pucko, joined by the guys. Tariq, Spence, how you doing?
Terrible. My Mets just totally blew it against the Yankees. We could have owned New York if we had just won one of the two games.
I would like to point out that from the moment he came in here high-stepping about that 3 out of 4 from the Braves, everything has gone downhill for you. And that's what you get for believing in the Mets.
Oh, Jesus.
That's 2 out of 162.
I can't wait for the Bills season now.
Wow.
That's what it took?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I see where this is going now.
Hey, Tom Brady, we love to talk about Tom Brady as a group here, I know. Tom Brady's back with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the whole idea is like he had an 11-day excused absence from the team that he planned in advance, and nobody seems to know where he was or what he was doing. And you know that people do know where he was and what he was doing, and they're not saying. Which brings me to the bigger question is, like, if you're a guy in the public eye, like all these athletes are, what right have you got to a certain degree of privacy these days?
You don't have too much of a right, unless this is a real family issue that was sort of grounded between him, his wife, or whatever it's going on.
But you're drawing a line there. Then.
Yeah, I don't really want to know until they make it public. So if it really is a family issue, we don't have a right to know. If this was about him going on quote unquote the Masked Singer, it's a stupid rumor that went around, and I don't believe that at all. I do think that it's a bit of a concern, the fact that you're this close to the season and you took that much time off, 11 days. Now, I don't know if that was sort of to work out the offensive line issues or whatever it may be, but I also find it interesting that that Raiders story came out during that whole absence, and it makes you wonder whether or not he wanted to avoid even talking about the possibility of this trade and all these other different things.
Except I don't think he knew that was going to come up at that point.
He did the interview, right? I mean, he did the interview. It was on. He would know what's coming at some point.
Yeah.
Look, all right, to answer your question.
Well, I mean, you guys are both in that situation.
Oh, yeah, I'm like the Tom Brady of radio. Look.
You said it, I didn't.
To your point. Yes, he deserves all the privacy he wants because it's a family issue, fine. In all reality, we should not care and it should not be any of our business. That being said, I love dunking on Tom Brady. With what Tom Brady demands of his teammates and what he's said he stood for all of these years, if you want me to be a jerk about it, yeah, you can't tell your teammates and coworkers and coaches, well, it's this way and this is how it's got to be because this is what wins. And then all of a sudden be like, hey, guys, I'm going to be gone for 11 days during the most important part of the season. Good luck with everything. I hope it all works out.
Who gets to play that card, though? There was a...
He does.
He does. There was a... Yeah, but it's the reporter that's actually playing the card.
Yeah.
Because Brady doesn't really have control over these people. So there's a guy on Dan Patrick's show this week that says, the reports on Tampa Bay sounds like he knows what was going on. He says this was no small thing. That's all he would say. He says it was planned. This was no small thing.
Well, I mean, barring exactly what it is and Tom Brady actually telling us what it is, it will be two different things. But that being said, this guy has the equity to do it. He's a guy that could leave in the middle of preseason for 11 days because of his Super Bowl, because of his status, and because Tampa Bay is relying on him to possibly take them back to the Super Bowl and get away with it.
I'm just saying, you as Tariq Spence, if you know what happened to Tom Brady, you have the story. What kind of pressure do you feel either to report it or not to report it? Like, where's the line that you draw?
I don't think I report it depending on what it is. If it's something serious and family issue, I would respect that, but there are a lot of vultures that would. And the other thing is, too, I don't want to deal with the wrath of Tom Brady. And we all know what the wrath of Tom Brady would be.
And those are two very separate issues. You're right. There is an ethical and moral dilemma, right? If it's a legitimate issue, then you don't report it. The man's entitled to his privacy. Although it kind of feels like, and I have no inside information, being here in Rochester with Tampa,
as the Tom Brady of radio.
Yes, exactly. No, it feels like he's afraid of what's going to happen if he crosses Tom Brady. And that's a dangerous precedent that's been set because you look at all the scandals that Tom Brady has been through his entire career and look at what happened with the guys that reported those scandals and got inside information and how they're frozen out of certain places, which cost them exclusives, which cost them jobs, which could kick them out of the business. Like, that is a serious problem that fans don't seem to understand because you want all the access in the world, right? You want to hear everything that's going on, and then when a guy crosses somebody that you like, well, yeah, get him out of here. He's not doing it the right way. No, you can't have it both ways here. If it's the wrath of Tom Brady, we have a serious problem here with this situation.
If reporters were protected like back in the day, this would be a different story. But there is a lot of fallout from doing a story like that, especially if it doesn't want to be released.
Interesting. This is the Rochester Press Box. We're talking Buffalo Bills next. Welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. Our Buffalo Bills segment is brought to you by Ralph Honda. For 3 generations and celebrating 50 years as New York's first and oldest Honda dealer, visit Ralph Honda today and find out how we do Honda right. RalphHonda.com. So the Buffalo Bills, I know it's just a preseason. There's just preseason games, and in 2 weeks these aren't going to matter. But there isn't anything wrong with going into a season feeling invincible, is there?
No,
10 straight wins.
Okay, first of all, we're taping this before the final preseason game, so you just jinxed the 3rd straight perfect season for preseason. Thank you a lot for that. No, look, I'm with you. I normally don't put anything into the preseason, but after that 2nd preseason game against Denver, this team is good, and this team is deep. You're just sending waves of players that were dominating the opposing team, no matter the level, no matter the squad, no matter who was out there, over and over and over again. This is what we've been waiting for, right? Like, I mean, let's remember the years, right, where you had guys like Fast Freddie Smith, which, by the way, his name was Justin. Nobody even knew, right? You're arguing that he should be a number 1 receiver. Guys like Robert Foster, he's got number 1 wide receiver potential. That guy wouldn't even make this team this year, not to disparage them. My point is this, man. We're here. There are going to be players on this roster that have been starring in the preseason that are going to get cut and make significant contributions to other NFL teams this year. There are guys on this Bills roster that are not going to see the field that would be able to make significant contributions to other teams this year. That, Bill, to answer your question, is what is making me so hyped about this preseason.
And then let me just say this. Last week, I came out hard on Case Keenum. What a great performance in the 2nd preseason game. Still proves he's a pro. Tells you how deep they are. He doesn't need to play that much in the regular season. I think he should play a lot in the last preseason game, barring whatever happens in the game.
And by the way, when these waiver wires come out, half of that roster is going to end up with the New York Giants, right? With Joe Shane and Brian Dable, knowing who they are.
Bill South, yes, absolutely.
Yes. I mean, I think the only thing that is up for debate now is how many wide receivers the Bills carry, who's going to end up in those linebacker spots with Andre Smith, as reserve depth, not being able to play for the first 6 games, and our safety's going to be healthy opening day. The last one looks rock solid. Everything else,
I like the running backs.
I do. Which don't even get me started on how I've been preaching for the running backs for years. But don't get mad. You know that's the truth. I will say this. They looked great. And I guess the question would be, you're live at the game. The energy there as well for that home game preseason. I know it's Kids Day, but my goodness, man, they scored on just about every drive.
They did it. It was awesome. Here's what was scary to me. Right, because, okay, first of all, I don't like watching Josh Allen play preseason ever, and that touchdown pass, as wonderful as it was horrifying because he's running around in circles, literally, like, just get the rid of the ball, this doesn't matter. The expectations for this team are super high, to the point where that play that I just described was brilliant. Josh Allen ran around in circles twice and flat-footed through a 40-yard dart to Gabe Davis in the end zone. And people around me in my section were just like it was old hat now. I almost wanted to get up and start screaming, do you understand how hard that is? Do you know what we had to watch for years before we get something like this? Like, that amazing athletic feat has become old hat. So if things do go a little bit sideways this year, I'm kind of scared of what this fan base is going to do.
Oh, last week, he was putting the Bills up against Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. This week, he's worried that the fans aren't worried about it.
Well, Brady's not going to get there.
Yeah, he might have time off that week, too.
Have you warmed up to anybody? I like the Blackshear kid, the running back.
He's not going to make this.
I know. Well, that's what I mean. I mean, that's what you go into the preseason. You try to hook onto a name or two, retain it, and say, God, I'm kind of rooting for this kid.
But there's no player I'm rooting for because there's so many different players on this team that could be stars at any given time, like Pat said.
You got a guy?
Khalil Shakir, the wide receiver, I believe he was a 5th-round pick this year, the Gabe Davis clone. I mean, this kid
Number 10.
Yeah, and he's out of Boise State, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I mean, the kid can play. How he was still available, where he was available, the only thing, and I mean, this is a blessing now. He's going to have time to learn how to play the game. He's going to have time to learn how to play the game from a guy like Stephon Diggs, who's a professional. Man, 2 or 3 years down the road, when contracts start coming up, that is a valuable piece.
This is the Rochester Press Box, our Buffalo Bills segment, brought to you by Ralph Honda. Like it or not is next. Here's the Press Box trivia question, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Getaway Guy. I'm in Canandaigua, and my podcast that you can see right now, look for The Getaway Guy on Facebook, is all about kids. And I begin here at a brand new park. Check it out. Look for The Getaway Guy on Facebook.
Here's the Press Box Trivia answer, brought to you by Market View Liquor, where exceptional customer service meets an extensive selection. Jefferson Road at 390.
Are you facing criminal charges from a DWI and feel that you never imagined it could happen to you? Contact attorneys with years of experience as prosecutors and defenders. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today for a free consultation. You can put your trust in us.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us here on the Rochester Press Box. Our segment, Like It or Not, brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law. Attorneys with years of experience defending the accused. Don't go unprepared. Contact Ganguly Brothers Law today. Like it or not, Deion Sanders comes out with the idea that first ballot Hall of Famers ought to have different colored jackets than the rest of the guys elected.
Well, I don't know about different colored jackets, but his point is very clear. First ballot Hall of Famers are totally different than regular Hall of Famers. Now, I'm not diminishing going into the Hall of Fame, but there are a number of people that go into the Hall of Fame after years of collective work and put together different things. But a first ballot Hall of Famer, that's extremely special. I know full well, Bruce Smith brought this up before, when there was somebody went in the Hall of Fame that he thought, wait a minute, man, you're going to put this guy next to me? Come on. This is not comparable. He is not in the same league as a Hall of Famer. First ballot Hall of Fame should maybe get a little bit more recognition.
No.
What?
No. There are guys.
Oh, my God.
Whose careers become more impressive the further away that they get from retirement. You can attest to this, right? And that's why they have the Old Timers Committee to put people in. It is a disrespectful move. If you believe that these guys are Hall of Famers, what's the difference between a first ballot and a 5th, 10th, 25th?
And we know.
It's called the writers. It's called the people that thought you weren't good enough to go in the first time I saw you.
But it's subjective. I mean, you have writers that change all the time. You have writers that prefer different things. You have writers that have relationships with players personally. That stuff is easy to manipulate.
With a first ballot Hall of Famer, it doesn't matter the relationship. It matters what happened on the field.
A handful of votes, left or right, can determine whether or not you are a first ballot Hall of Famer. And if it's 5 guys in a room that have a personal relationship with Bruce Smith, with Deion Sanders, with Andre Reed, whomever it is, that could sway
But that just proves an argument that they shouldn't be first-time Hall of Famers. It should be no doubt about it. First ballot Hall of Famers are no doubt about it.
So would you boot all the rest of these guys out? You get
I wouldn't boot.
You get one chance to get into the Hall of Fame?
I would not boot them out.
Burn it down. Burn down the Hall of Fame.
That's not what Deion Sanders said. Deion Sanders said there is a difference between a first ballot Hall of Famer and somebody who's waited 7 to 8 years or maybe accumulated a career over time to get into the Hall of Fame. That is a big difference.
You're right. It changes, but we'll let that lie. A quick like it or not, the apology by Fernando Tatis on its PED thing.
Sure, whether he apologized 2 weeks after or a day after, it's not a sincere apology. It was never going to be a sincere apology. He got caught trying to skirt the game. I mean, unless you believe his explanation. Look, it is what it is. The timing doesn't matter. It was never going to be a sincere apology 24 hours after or 2 weeks.
You know, but he's a 23-year-old. And 2 things struck me is that he said, first of all, this has turned my and I got to give him credit for saying the kind of things you don't hear these guys say a lot. A-Rod never said that it turned my dreams into a nightmare. I've lost the love of a lot of friends, and I'm going to remember how I feel today. The 23-year-old coming out and saying this, not in a press release, but saying it in person means something to me.
He'll get over it about 12 months from now when he's playing baseball for the Padres and playing a lot better if his contract holds up and his body holds up. But here's the thing. Baseball players lie all the time. Braun lied all the time about PED use. You've got a number of players with, the guy from the Mets.
Just name any baseball player. There's a 75% chance that he's taking steroids.
I've always said it was a side effect of it. But again, he is saying things that I haven't heard a lot of athletes say.
It's almost like he has someone in his life that had a major league career that knows how to deal with PR. Was there someone in his life who had a major league career before he was there?
The smartest thing to do is get it out there. This is what I did. I'm sorry. I'll be a better person. And then make sure your team is better next year.
We are the Rochester Press Box. Like it or not, brought to you by Ganguly Brothers Law, and Unfinished Business is next.
Cespedes. The Press Box Stat of the Week is being brought to you by McArdle's Restaurant in Fairport. McArdle's is open 7 days a week with dining available indoors and out, takeout and delivery. Come home to McArdle's.
In now to Eichel. He floated one. Score!
Unfinished Business is brought to you by Greg the Roofer. Greg will meet or beat any competitor's price and can finance you with zero down. Call today or visit gregtheroofer.com. Better roof, better price. Better call Greg today.
Thanks for joining us and welcome back to the Rochester Press Box. Time for Unfinished Business. Pat Stark.
It's a very strange time for the state of New York college athletics. UB's on the way up, but they're also in a spot where it's going to be hard to climb any higher than they are. Syracuse has always been the premier school when it came to statewide NCAA athletics. Football team's fallen off in recent years, which isn't great. And as we look at all of this conference realignment, it's hard to figure out where Syracuse fits in, because what are you getting if you take Syracuse into a mega conference? I mean, the football team isn't anything great. They have a hard time recruiting in New York State, one, because they're on a ton of high-end blue-chip New York State football players, and two, even when they do come out of your backyard, you miss on them. Think about the amount of Rochester players that have starred on a college football level in the last 15 years that Syracuse didn't manage to get in their backyard. But good thing for Syracuse, you always had basketball to fall back on, except right now you don't really have basketball to fall back on. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Jim Boeheim staying as a legend is hurting this program. The guy who was able to recruit for you in Hopkins, he left. And it shows the last couple of years. Not to mention, basketball does not make the money, even close, that football makes. So, you look at schools in the past that used to have major programs that faded away. And there's sad stories of glory gone by that pop every once in a while. The problem with Syracuse is, with all of this realignment and the way things are going, you may not even have an opportunity down the road to pop every once in a while. It could just be glory that's faded forever.
If you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, you've got to be extremely excited. You got 3 quarterbacks, 2 technically, that could start your season for you. Week 1, I'm not sure what Mike Tomlin is going to do, and I never underestimate him, but I don't think you should start the rookie quarterback. I think the rookie quarterback will start in Kenny Pickett, but it should be Mitchell Trubisky the first game out, especially against the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. Somewhere down the line, though, I think Pickett will get a chance, possibly week 4 against the Jets, or even better, week 10 after the bye week against the Saints. So I think Kenny Pickett's going to be great. I wish the Giants would have drafted him or we wouldn't have Daniel Jones right now, but we are where we are. I think you rest and you learn from the New England Patriots. What they did with Mac Jones was they just threw him in the fire, thought the coaching would be brilliant enough and they could win some games. Didn't work out that way. For Mike Tomlin and for the Pittsburgh Steelers fans, you got a good one. Wait a little bit, let the transition go where it goes, let the season start for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pretty good usually under Tomlin, and then we'll see if Pickett will be able to join the team somewhere down the line in the near future to set up for next year. Kenny Pickett is your future. Good luck, Pittsburgh.
And with the 132nd pick of the 1962 American Football League draft, the Buffalo Bills select Tom Sestak, tight end, McNeese State. Extra credit if you knew that McNeese State was in Louisiana. There were 34 rounds in the 1962 AFL draft. Sestak was chosen in the 19th. He was shifted to defensive tackle, and he is the most obvious omission from the Pro Football Hall of Fame representing the Buffalo Bills, with apologies to Steve Tasker. Sestak was a beast, 6'4", fast and strong, a dominant player in the old AFL, a cornerstone of a Bills defense that won back-to-back league titles in 1964 and 5, the only 2 professional championships of any kind won by a Buffalo sports team. Credentials? Sestak was named to the all-time All-AFL team as a first stringer. His backup on that team, Buck Buchanan, is in the Hall of Fame. Sestak was selected as a unanimous first-team All-League 3 consecutive seasons, a feat accomplished by only 5 others in that decade. The other 5 are in the Football Hall of Fame. As recently as 2019, Sestak's name surfaced as a finalist for the NFL's all-time top 100 players. But most telling, when the Buffalo Bills got around to establishing their Wall of Fame, only 2 players, Jack Kemp and O.J. Simpson, were chosen to be honored ahead of Sestak's number 70. Not Billy Shaw, Sestak's AFL teammate for his entire pro career, who is in the Football Hall of Fame. The knock. Service time. Knee injuries cut Sestak's career to 7 seasons, 96 games. Well, Gale Sayers played 68, Terrell Davis 78, Seattle safety Kenny Easley is in, he appeared in 89. That's the case. In 1987, Sestak died a young man of 51 from a heart attack a mere month after learning that he had Lou Gehrig's disease. Tom isn't here to speak for himself anymore. There aren't that many my age who remember him. Bills fans unite. Tom Sestak deserves not to be forgotten. I love the old AFL and the guys who played in it. That's our unfinished business.
Got to definitely say condolences out to Len Dawson, passed away earlier this week.
Another one of those guys.
The greatest sports photo of all time is him at halftime of the first Super Bowl smoking a cigarette with a Fresca between his legs. They don't make football players like they used to.
That is our show. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week with the Rochester Press Box.